everybody. My name is Andy Munitz, and I'm product manager at Sony's Professional Solutions division. And I'm product manager for a couple of product lines, our PVMX series of monitors, as well as our professional audio products. So today, I think I'd like to tell you about a couple of products that we would have shown at this year's NAB, and obviously we're not there, so this is what you get along with my quarantine beard. However, let's just jump in. One of the really important products that we were going to show at NAB this year is a new series of video monitors called our PVMX Series. You may be aware that we've got a few ranges of monitors. We have our very high-end Master Series called BVM HX310 is our latest generation. Very, very high-end monitor. Absolutely stunning in all of its capabilities and how it looks. However, we've always had a series of monitors called the PVM series, and we are upgrading it this year with new models called PVMX 1800 and PVMX 2400. And these monitors, in as much as the BVM-HX310 is a little large, perhaps, and kind of heavy, and also, quite honestly, not exactly inexpensive. It's not specifically meant for every single video application. We like to think that it is primarily used, for final post, color grading, all those kind of things, QC. But we needed a line of monitors that were appropriate for so many other applications, certainly broadcast in production, on set, on location, for use in trucks, studios and edit suites, video village, play out, switching, lighting, even CGI and VFX use, client viewing, certainly, just to name some of the obvious ones. I'm sure there are plenty more in there. But we wanted to come out with a line of monitors that were really appropriate for those applications as well. And we realize that in the world of monitoring that we're in today, and certainly of production, 4K is really prevalent. And so we needed this monitor to be able to do complete 4K as well as HDR. And in the realm of HDR, we didn't want to just have a monitor that could, just do very bright specular highlights, for example, or a very limited area of a screen could reach 1,000 nits. We wanted to have a monitor that could do 1,000 nits capability in HDR across the entire field of view, just like the HX310. And exactly that is what we have accomplished with the new PVMX series. Now, you might go, well, why 1,000 nits across the entire screen? But in actuality, there are many kinds of clips or scenes that could benefit from that. Not only a snow-filled, snow-filled field or a beach view or something like that, but certainly a very bright sky and filled with clouds and all that kind of stuff. And we've done some early demos of the prototypes of these monitors, and when we put up a complete white field on the monitor and run it at 1,000 nits, people go, wow, you could almost just get a suntan off of that stuff. Not really, obviously, but it is very bright, and that's the way we think that HDR monitoring needs to be. We are offering the PVMX series in two sizes, in an 18-inch version and a 24-inch version. But as well as being multi-purpose, and to achieve that ability of being multi-purpose, they had to be portable. And so these monitors have built-in handles, and they are fairly lightweight. The PVMX 1800 is just about 18 pounds, and the 2400 is just under 24 pounds. So that's easy to carry around on set, and that's kind of important as well. But in general, one of the most important design requirements or design goals was that it had to have an exceptionally high cost performance ratio. For a given price, it had to do so many things and it had to look just great. So to achieve that, we use some exclusive Sony internal processing to make these monitors look really great. But if I had to say that there was one capability that was utmost important, is that the way this monitor looked in terms of their chromaticity, in terms of their colorimetry, it had to match what the BVM-HX310 does. And that's for the simple and hopefully obvious reason that when you use one of these monitors on set, for example, what you see, you want to make sure that it is exactly the same thing that gets seen in the edit suite when the editors are perhaps looking at one of these monitors or certainly at a BVM-HX310. And that's what our engineers strove so carefully to achieve, to have that same colorimetry and chromaticity. Now, you can see that, when you have a color gamut that is as wide as is available in these monitors, you can look at a monitor and it may have effectively the same volume. For example, in this slide with the pink triangle, where that represents what both of these monitor series can do. But some other monitors may be on the market, may cover the same area, but the triangle of colors that it covers may be slightly skewed one way or the other. In other words, the axes that make up that triangle might not line up absolutely perfectly. And if you don't have the exact same axes and the orientation of that triangle, effectively, you get different colors and you will not get the same thing in post that you were shooting to in the field. So that is a hugely important capability of these monitors. Again, to be sure that what you see in the field is what will be seen in post. Now, we've, of course, added a whole bunch of other features, and just to mention some of them here, but not necessarily all of them, we've given the PVMX series of monitors the ability to be split into 4 quadrants, effectively to be like you have 4 1080 monitors all in this one 4K monitor. And each signal in each of the quadrants can have different LUTs and different EOTFs as well, and you can input different signals as well. You can load and store up to 30 user 3D LUTs through a front panel USB interface. There's another thing that we've added in this monitor called VPID, Video Payload ID. And this is something that is fairly new and starting to show up in some high-end cameras, including some of our very high-end cameras. But what it effectively says is, while you're shooting, the camera can take note of all of its various settings, be color space or be, HDR or what have you. And there are an awful lot of settings involved with those, but they get transmitted as a bit of data information or metadata, if you will, in the blanking information, and the monitor can actually look at that and then set up the monitor to exactly match the way they were shot. And that can reduce all sorts of errors when you are using the monitor. So that's kind of really a nice thing to have. But that functionality is just becoming popular, and this new series has VPID capability. We have as well kind of made sure that all the common interfaces are there, including up to 3G, 12G interface, and so the units are also very robustly made, full metal construction, and they are both rack and Visa mountable. And in terms of the rack mounting, we even have the ability to take even the 24-inch model and install it in 19-inch rack, because a lot of the circuitry inside of this monitor we kind of conform to a space that can fit between the rack rails, so that you can rack mount the 24-inch model as well as the 18-inch model, and they mount really nicely. But we even considered the fact that if you use these monitors in the field, you can get as an accessory a protection panel, a clip-on protection panel. If you were moving a setup from one location on set to another location, you might want to protect your monitor's front panel from anything falling into it and probably scratching your display. So you want to be able to protect against that, and we offer a protection cover as well. The monitors can also operate on DC power, 24-volt battery support. We also give these monitors the ability to have a lot of different custom markers that can be set up, even including portrait mode. Portrait mode is, for those of you that may not be aware, a lot of people are trying to maybe do cut downs or shoot on set and be aware of a format that is, more tall than it is wide, so that people can view videos maybe on their cell phones. And this is, common in Instagram or in the new kind of a delivery format called Quibi. However, we offer that as well in terms of those custom markers. We have a full set of on-screen scopes that allow you to do 4K HDR and SDR, as well as HD, HDR and SDR, internal waveform, vector scopes, as well as even an 8-channel audio level meter scope. And that really helps you maintain on-location accuracy. Finally, one of the things that we have learned from the BVM-HX310 is that it's such a fully featured monitor that it takes a little bit of learning to get comfortable with the menu structure of it, to become its master, if you will. And so specifically in the PVMX series, we wanted to make that a bit easier to learn. And to achieve that goal, we have effectively flattened out some of the menu structure and made it a shallower menu structure. And that obviously just speeds up your navigation and makes it easier to use. You can also have many settings that are custom saved for any operator that can even be password protected. There is something that we are adding that is currently in development, but we would have announced at NAB, which is completely unique in a monitor, which is a in-monitor conversion option. That really means that we can do color space conversion from 2020 to 709, for example, and we can do, OETFs to EOTF conversions, going from the various flavors of HDR, HLG, PQ, S-Log3, and convert them to SDR. And we even have resolution conversion where you can go from 4K to HD. And then you can view all these on screen and look at them as they are different in different quadrants, even with their own scopes relative to each of those. And we have an output connector on the back panel that will allow you to kind of send those out. And again, finally, I think we already mentioned that these have various mounting options and screen protection kits and 24-volt operation and so on and so forth. So in a quick sense, that's a brief overview of the new PVMX 1800 and 2400 series monitors. We expect these to be shipping in August, so please keep an eye out for those, and hope you get a chance to have a look at them. They're really quite beautiful monitors. Just to reiterate that what I think is the most important point of matching up with the HX310, and again, some of these early demos that we did, we had opportunities to put the two side by side, the 2400 and the HX310, and everybody was just knocked out by how identical they looked. So I think we've really achieved that, and that's just a critical thing in a workflow. So with that, let me just move on to a completely different topic, in that I am also the product manager for a lot of our Pro Audio products, and I wanted to briefly introduce you to the new UWP-D series that we certainly would have highlighted at NAB show. We've had a series of wireless mics out for several years called UWP-D. It stands for UHF Wireless Package, and the D stands for Digital Signal Processing, because we do onboard digital signal processing in both the transmitters and the receivers. And that's for a very specific reason of keeping the audio as pristine as we possibly can. But one of the new benefits is that in the receiver, after it has received the signal from the transmitter, it goes again through an A to D converter in the receiver, and then it's inside DSP. And while it's in there, we can apply a mathematical algorithm for what's called a companding scheme. But the important thing to understand is with many of our new cameras, including an Alpha A7R4, an FX9, Z280, Z190s, A9 Mark IIs, we have a new multi-interface shoe, which I can just show you here, that clicks onto the bottom of the receiver, and then audio goes right from the receiver down directly through the shoe right into the camera without any cables. And you can even use the camera's battery power to feed up and feed in, and you don't even need to have batteries in the wireless receiver, making it a bit lighter. But the important thing is, since we are in the digital domain inside that receiver, we have the ability now through a little analog or digital switch on this little multi-interface shoe called an SMADP5 to pick off that signal while it's still in the digital domain and route it directly into the video file of the camera. So that prevents having to go through another D to A, which you can still do in the analog position and feed traditional other devices with an analog signal, but you can prevent having to go through that D to A and the camera's another A to D. So that is actually another benefit of that new series. I would say that another really, really important thing, perhaps one of the most important things about wireless microphones, if you use them at all, you'd agree that reliability of signal is absolutely critical. You don't want dropouts, because once you get that first dropout, you're always waiting for the next one. And to prevent dropouts, the UWP-D wireless receiver here employs what's called true double tuner diversity reception. And what it really means is that, you can tune this in to the frequency or the channel that a transmitter is on, but what we do inside here is we actually put two separate tuners, and you tune both of them in to the channel that the transmitter is on. And then there's a little circuit called a comparator circuit that constantly monitors which one of those two tuners is the strongest. So even if a dropout condition hints at happening on the first tuner, the unit has already switched over to the clean other tuner. And it will switch back and forth noiselessly on its own all day long, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So that's a really important thing, especially in a package this small and at this price point. So true double tuner diversity to prevent dropouts is a really, really critical thing. And obviously we can put all that into such a small package here and keep great battery life on these things, because that's what Sony does. We know how to do that. It's a really wonderful thing. Now, the next thing is called NFC channel setting mode. For those of you that use wireless mics, you may know that scanning for the quietest and the best frequency to use wherever and whenever you are is a very smart thing to do, rather than just turning on your wireless system and hoping that you don't get any interference because you used the system last week in a different city or a different part of town, and let's just hope it works. Well, your editor will certainly yell at you when he starts hearing, hits and dropouts and things like that. So again, it must be very easy to scan for the clean and quietest frequencies and to set your transmitter to match the receiver. And we have made it as even easy as possible. You don't even have to go into menus anymore on the receiver. You simply hit a top panel button that's called NFC Sync, and in about 3 seconds, the unit starts scanning, and then it will flash the OLED screen black and white saying it's found the quietest frequency, and you literally hold the transmitter because it's got two little NFC logos, and it vibrates in your hand. The transmitter vibrates in your hand, letting you know that it's found the correct frequency. So it's very, very easy. And now both the transmitter and the receiver are on the quietest available frequency. So that's really simple. Now we also have USB powering. You can power these off of a cell phone charger. We have true battery timers where you can count up to the minutes and the hours to realize, how much battery life is left. You don't just have to trust a 3-segment bar graph battery meter, which you really don't usually trust, and you're happy to swap batteries out. But now you realize, well, I usually get, 8 hours, 10 hours, or even way more out of a transmitter, and it only says, I've been using it for 2 hours and 23 minutes, and my gig today is only going to go for another 4 or 5 hours. Don't toss the batteries. And in the course of a year, you can actually save a lot of money in batteries. These are very ruggedly built, great fit and finish. We have a headphone output on the receiver with a monitor mode, and they have a very wide frequency spectrum ability where they can tune in to 2,772 different frequencies across a 12 UHF TV channel or 72 megahertz band. The transmitters can accept both mic or line level input on both that and on the plug-on transmitters right here. So that's a brief overview. These come in packages with just, either a body pack and a receiver, or a handheld and a receiver, or a body pack and a plug-on and a receiver, and are also available as individual models. But here is a little slide that shows the audio benefits of this. So, for example, in the leftmost shot here, the original sound has a very sharp transient wavefront. And with analog normal companding scheme, you can tend to mush that out. And with our digital audio processing using algorithms, we hold on to all of that quality and that presence and that sharp transient attack that you'd like to hear out of wireless. So we've talked about the NFC channel setting mode, and that's really interesting. But what is kind of also interesting is that you can do this the other way. You can actually tell the receivers to learn their frequency from one transmitter. So if you've got a whole pile of these on set that people want to use and wear on their belts as personal monitoring devices, because we've got a built-in headphone jack, you can just pick them up and hold them up to the transmitter that's the source, and you can pick up another one and it vibrates, pick up another one and it vibrates, and you can match a whole pile of receivers to the transmitter very quickly. Now, we also have an interesting little feature in here called channel memory mode. Say you have 2 transmitters but only 1 receiver, and that 1 receiver now has a capability which is very similar to what we're used to in all of our TV remote controls, which is simply jump to the last channel you watched and hop back and forth between the last channel and the current channel. Well, we've added that into this new receiver. So, for example, you can instantly hop back and forth from 2 different transmitters' frequencies. It can be used in a lot of different applications. And as well, we did talk briefly about the MI shoe capability, and this again can match up with many of our new cameras or our existing cameras, but certainly you have analog outputs and XLR connectors and mini-to-mini jacks, and you can feed it into just about any camera out there. So with that said, that is our UWP-D series, available in a package called UWP-D21 and most commonly UWP-D26 with the extra transmitter. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and hopefully you learn some things. And if you'd like more information on any of these products, certainly just go to sony.com/professional, where you'll find some information on both our monitors and our professional audio, as well as all the other products that we make in the world of Sony professional products. So everybody, thanks again. Be safe out there. Much appreciated.